And welcome back to the channel. Mr. Acolyte here, coming at you with a bit of a different video this time. Usually I do match reviews, but this time I'm going to be doing a full game review. In this video, I'll be breaking down a lot of different aspects of Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. And the point of this video is to help you find out whether or not this is the fighting game for you. If you want the TLDR and you're just curious about my opinion right off the bat, spoilers, I highly recommend this game. I think this is a fantastic fighting game. I love playing it. It is very rich in every meaning of the word, but you don't have to just take my word for it. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this game has to offer. Let's jump right on into this review. So let's go ahead and start with probably the most important part of any fighting game, and that is, of course, the mechanics. For this demonstration, we'll be using Hotaru because she's probably the best example character for how all the mechanics in this game actually work. Keep in mind, we're not going to go over every single mechanic. I don't want this to turn into a guide. This is just more of like a recommendation video, so we're just going to go over some of the highlights so that you get a good idea of how this game works. We're going to help you form your opinion if you want to pick this one up. Okay, starting off with the basics. Buttons. This is a 4-button layout game. You have your light punch, heavy punch, light kick, and heavy kick. These are your 4 standard buttons. There are some other buttons we'll talk about a little bit later, but those are the normal face buttons that you're going to be dealing with. As in most games, your lights are quick, and they're usually meant for your up-close pressure and keeping the opponent in check, while your heavy buttons are more like your ranged pokes and whiff punishers. When it comes to movement, you have your backdash and your forward dash. Now, when it comes to dashing forward, that's where things already get interesting. That is based on character to character. Some characters, such as Hotaru, have a run when you hit forward, so you can just run as long as you want, like up to the opponent if you want to, while other characters like Preacha have a dash. So the type of movement available to you will be dependent on what character you're playing. Of course, as with just about any 2D fighter, you also have the ability to jump. Your jump is also tied to your character, how high you jump, how fast you jump, all that sort of stuff. This is a more traditional fighting game, so of course there's no air dashes or anything like that, but you do have a short hop, which is a staple of SNK games. A short hop is a jump where you barely leave the ground. So as you can see, that's a regular jump. You jump pretty high. That sets you up to be anti-aired, but with a short hop, you jump very low to the ground, and this can be good for a variety of things like shimmies, jumping over buttons, or just resetting your offense, and it's a lot harder to anti-air because the opponent has a lot less time to react. So short hops are a good way of getting in on the opponent and just mixing up your pressure in general. Special moves. Special moves are very standard across the board. You have your regular universal inputs. You have your 2-3-6s, your 2-1-4s, and your DP inputs. And just as you would expect in most games, the light version is going to do something that is probably slower or shorter range, whereas the heavy version is going to be something faster and bigger. Okay, so now that we got the very bare bone basics out of the way, let's go ahead and start talking about the actual unique mechanics to City of the Wolves itself. Let's talk about the fun stuff. So you'll notice in the bottom left-hand corner, there is a gauge there that says 0%. That is the Rev gauge. Think of it similar to, if you play Street Fighter 6, it's very similar to the drive gauge. Pretty much the entire game of City of the Wolves revolves around the Rev gauge. So what does it do? The Rev gauge basically dictates how you get to use your EX moves. We talked about regular special moves before, but what happens if you want to do your EX moves? In this game, EX moves does not cost you any of your super meter, it costs you Rev meter. So if I want to do an EX fireball, I would do 2-3-6 and press both punch buttons, and I would do the EX. And as you can see, it costs me 25 meters. So what's really cool about this is as soon as the match starts, you have access to your EXs. You don't have to wait to build them up or anything like that. As soon as they say go, you have access to very powerful tools, which right off the bat gets the mind games going. But it doesn't stop there. Another really cool thing about the Rev gauge is it allows you to actually chain your EX moves. So not only do you have access to your EX moves whenever you want them, but you can chain them together. So let's go ahead and go over an example of this with Hotaru here. So if I do her 214 EX move right here, the windmill punch, if I just let that rock as is, you can see it is -6, which is very punishable in this game. So if I do that and the opponent blocks it, I'm gonna get punished. However, thanks to the fact that you can chain EXs, I can do my EX windmill and then cancel it into EX fireball, which is plus. So now that creates a situation where the opponent, they don't know at what point I'm going to cancel it, because I can cancel it early, late, not at all. You have a lot of different options there, and as you can see, the EX fireball ender is actually plus. So at the cost of spending a little bit of extra rev, because you can see doing 2 moves put me at 40% because I did a rev cancel right there, I get to keep my turn and continue my offense. And pretty much every character in the game works this way. The whole idea is that you want to find which EX moves work well together in what sequence. Of course, this works on hit as well if you're looking to do some big combos. Ordinarily, let's say that I do crouching heavy punch into the windmill. Normally, it would just look like that, right? But if I cancel it, I can cancel it into her EX uppercut kick, so I can go from a poke to a launcher right away, and then I would get a full combo off of that launch. Another cool example, I actually couldn't believe this when I first got on the game and I saw this in the beta. So Hotaru has a command grab. It is 2, 3, 6 and one of the kick buttons. Normally you don't really get much out of it other than the fact that it's a command grab and it's unbreakable, so the opponent has to watch out for it. But if you do the EX version, yeah, because of the way this game works, you can go from EX command grab to EX launcher all in one go and get a full combo for that. So as you can see, the options available to you with the rev gauge are numerous. Like, and this is just one character. There's so many characters in the game. Every character in the game has a whole bunch of different options, different things that they can do with the rev gauge, and that's part of what makes this game so fun to play. So if canceling EX moves on hit and on block is so good, then I'm sure you're wondering what's the downside. Well, so every time obviously that you use your EX moves, as we showed before, the gauge goes up. Now what happens if it goes too far? As you can see, I'm at 80%. If I do it again, I'm overheated. So this is the equivalent to, if you've seen or played Street Fighter 6, this is the equivalent to burnout. When you're overheated, you lose access to your EXs. See, I can no longer EX, but not only that, you lose access to almost every mechanic in the game. There are more mechanics we haven't talked about yet, but you lose access to those. So you have no access to mechanics, and even worse, you see the bar underneath my health at the top, see how it is now red? That is your guard break gauge. Once you are overheated, you can be guard broken. So to demonstrate that, I'm gonna put Terry on overheat here. And so now I'm just going to do a string on him. Let's do that same string that we showed before. See how I took away about half of his guard gauge? If I do it again, and then one more time, as you can see, he gets guard crushed. So there are setups in the game that are designed to guard crush you. So if you get guard crushed, the opponent gets a free combo on you. So obviously you do not want to get overheated. It's not a good place to be. And that's where, again, a lot of the mind games and the fun comes from this game, is balancing your rev with your offense and your defense. Because another thing I should mention about the rev gauge is it goes up every time you block. So when your opponent is pressuring you, they are building up your rev. So if you block a lot and then you try to do some EX moves, you can burn yourself out. So there's always a constant flow of mind games and decision making going on to keep your rev gauge in a safe position so that you don't burn out and potentially lose the round. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and talk about instant block. This is a very deep and complex mechanic. It's simple to explain, but it's very difficult to master, and it has a ton of depth behind it. Let's go ahead and talk about this. Okay, so what is instant block? So instant block is the act of hitting back at the moment that an attack makes contact with you. So if you do it properly, it looks like this. So when you do an instant block or a just defend, whichever you like to prefer to call it, you get a bunch of benefits. As we talked about before, when you block something, oh, I didn't even mean to do that right there. When you block something, it starts to crank your rev gauge, right? However, when you instant block, it recovers your gauge. So not only do you not take any rev gauge buildup, you can recover gauge if it's starting to get high. As you can see, this is where even more of the mind games start to come in, because if you've just spent a lot of meter or your opponent's on your block, instant blocking is the best way to start recovering some of your footing rather than just sitting there and having them potentially burn you out. Not only that, one of the best use cases for instant block is against projectiles. Something that people hate in almost any fighting game is getting zoned out. Well, in this game, zoning isn't as strong because of the fact that you can instant block. When you instant block, you also get a bit of health back. So if someone is chilling on the other side of the screen throwing fireballs at you, as long as you have the timing, you can actually heal yourself every time they throw a fireball at you. This, of course, adds a whole lot of layers to the mind games of how this game works, and that's actually not it. There's still some more things that you can do with instant block. Ordinarily, you're not able to block in the air in this game, so if you jump and somebody throws a fireball, you know you're gonna land on it, you're cooked normally, right? Well, that's where instant block comes in again. So if I put him on just defend right here, you can actually instant block out of the air to save yourself from taking any damage. This even works against anti-airs. And another situation where it's really good is, let's say you're fighting a character with a really annoying special move, like, for example, Terry's crack shoot, right? This is a move that travels really far, really fast, and is completely safe. As you can see, it's only -2, so Terry can get in on me from very far away, and unless I react to it with like a DP or an evade or something, I just have to take this in most instances. But if you instant block it, then you gain access to guard cancel. So in most games, Street Fighter, Grand Blue, Strive, DBFZ, you have guard cancels where you input something to get the opponent off of you. Well, in this game, it's a little more complex. It's the same concept, but it's just a little bit deeper. So in this game, you literally cancel your block. Anytime you do a just defend or instant block, you can cancel that into one of your special moves. So what's happening there, like I said, is I instant block the crack shoot, and then I immediately input the windmill punch, and that gives me a punish because I'm instantly able to cancel my blocking animation into an attack. You could even use this opportunity to cancel into a launcher to get a combo afterwards. So a move that is relatively safe, if your reactions are good enough, you can actually turn into an unsafe move. So it puts the opponent in a situation where they can't mindlessly throw out neutral skips or moves that, you know, are seemingly really hard to stop, are actually very punishable as long as you are in tune with the mechanics. Okay, the next mechanic I want to talk about that's really fun, and I consider this to be one of the highlights of the entire game: breaks and feints. So starting off with the feint. So you have a feint button. That's another universal button on your controller. You can set it to anywhere you want. Mine is on R1 in case you're wondering. So what is a feint button? A feint button is just as it sounds. When you press it, your character will do a feint. So as you can see, Hotaru does like this little like jerking animation, and that is to feint the opponent into thinking that you're about to do her fireball. So in the middle of a match, if an opponent is waiting to instant block or jump or do their anti-fireball move or whatever, you can literally fake them out by just doing your feint. This is completely free, it's relatively safe, and it adds a lot of layers to the neutral. But it doesn't stop there. Hotaru and multiple characters have multiple different feints. If you hold forward and do the button, she'll do a spin. This is to mimic her DP. As you see, she spins with her DP, so you can feint that as well. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, that one doesn't look as useful, and you would be right. From mid-screen, it's not that useful. What if I told you that you could do it on block? So normally, as you can see, if I do my close heavy, it's -2. But if I do my close heavy and then feint after it, I actually recover faster, so it is now 0. So technically, I don't lose my turn. Even better, if I do my close heavy kick, which is 0 on block by itself, if I feint it afterwards, I'm now +4. So you can feint any button you want during a string, and it'll give you better frame data. So when you're going in for pressure, let's say you get a short hop and then a big button here, not only are you cranking their gauge, as we talked about before, but with a feint, you can actually keep your turn. When you put that together with all the stuff we talked about before, you can see how the offense in this game can start getting pretty crazy. And again, it doesn't end there. Those are just feints. Feints, again, are just great for block string pressure, you know, setting up throws, you know, continuing your offense, stuff like that, or faking the opponent out if you have a good mid-screen feint. But what about breaks? Breaks are even cooler and even more fun, in my opinion. A break is the act of pretty much what it sounds. You break an animation in half, basically, is an easy way to think about it. So let's go back to the windmill punch again. So as I showed at the very beginning, if you do the windmill punch, it is -6. But if you do it and press the feint button, you'll break it. And you can see that when I break it, she stops early, she breaks the animation, and so now I'm only -3, so I'm no longer punishable. Even better, if I do the EX version, that is, again, -6, punishable, but if I break it, +3. So now I've only used one EX move. I don't even need to use 2, as I've been showing you before. Plot twist, you don't need to use 2. You can just break and then continue your pressure from there. So again, when you start putting everything together, the offense in this game is very fluent, very fast, and very fun. You have a lot of options here. And again, this is just Hotaru. Each character has their own breaks and feints and stuff like that that all work completely differently. And if you can believe it, that's still not all. When it comes to breaking, the best thing to break in this game, if your character has it, is actually a DP. So normally DPs are meant to, you know, stop people from jumping at you, right? Like if somebody's jumping at you, you want to DP them. That's pretty obvious. But what do you usually get out of a DP? Just that, right? Well, again, what if I told you that you could break your DP? So to do that, you input the DP and press the feint button as quickly as possible afterwards. And if you're quick enough, you will only get the startup of the DP. So you see, she does the shoulder and then a little twirl, and this ends up launching the opponent. So instead of just doing a DP and it ends there, I can DP break and get a full combo. Again, when you just put all this stuff together, it leads to just a whole bunch of creativity and just so many options, because obviously you can break on block, so that means that you can use breaking in your strings to throw the opponent off or try to extend your turn even after doing your feint. You just have all sorts of different options. And yes, of course, this applies to combos too. Thanks to breaks, if you add breaks, EX moves, and feints all together, you can do some huge, long combo sequences. The next mechanic I wanted to highlight is the wild punish system. This is a really fun mechanic because this basically leads to big combos. For this demonstration, we're going to go ahead and use Ronaldo. So what is a wild punish? Basically, a wild punish is a fancy way of just saying a whiff punish. A wild punish in this game is very similar to a punish counter or a fatal counter in something like Street Fighter 6 or Blaze Blue or Guilty Gear Strive. Anytime your opponent whiffs a button and you whiff punish them, specifically with one of your heavier attacks, let's say for example Ronaldo's heavy kick here, it will result in a wild punish. As you can see, you get that little screen freeze and zoom in similar to something like a counter hit in Guilty Gear. What this does is it gives you a huge opportunity to get a combo, because ordinarily, as you can see here, if I land Ronaldo's heavy kick at neutral, while it does pretty good damage, I don't get anything else out of it. I'm only +2, so obviously I'm not going to get any sort of a combo off of +2. However, what happens when it's a wild punish? As you see, I'm +22. Now that we can work with. +22 is actually so high that you can run up and get a full hit confirm after the camera zoom. As you can see, this makes whiff punishing in this game not only extremely strong, but extremely rewarding. So again, that adds a lot of layers to the neutral. If your opponent is just wildly throwing out special moves or just throwing out buttons without a care, and you're the one playing patient and you're getting those whiff punishes, you're going to be heavily rewarded. That's kind of like the way this game works. It is very punishing when you make a mistake, but it's very rewarding when you capitalize on the opponent's mistakes. And in my opinion, being rewarded for playing properly should be one of the biggest aspects of any good fighting game. And it doesn't stop at just the neutral. Wild Punish has a really big impact on the general offensive flow of this game. This is a strike throw game, meaning that the main way you will open your opponent up is either by just straight up throwing them, because throws are very, very fast in this game. They're 5 frames, so that is always going to lead to situations where your opponent is going to get shimmied because they're going to think that you're trying to throw them, especially on wake up or during your pressure sequences. It's just going to be a natural thing. Your opponent is going to try to break throw, and if you get a successful shimmy in this game, you guessed it, wild punish. So if you have your opponent in the corner and you get a shimmy on wake up, let's just say you might lose more than a little bit of health. All right, and the last mechanic we're gonna highlight is the SPG system. As you can see, we're back at the character select screen, and that's because character select is where you choose your SPG. Your SPG is part of your health bar. See how like they have that little red bar? You get to decide a section of your health that becomes your SPG. So you can put it in the beginning, the middle, or the end of your health bar. And for this example, we're going to go ahead and put it at the beginning. So once your SPG is active, you gain a lot of buffs and benefits, but we're only going to cover 2 of those for now, because again, I don't want this to turn into a full guide. We're just here to talk about some of the highlights of the game. That way you get a good understanding of how it works. So SPG, the main thing that it gives you access to is a special attack called a Rev Blow. Whether you're being pressured by your opponent and you want to get off of me, or you have like a good read at neutral, you can use Rev Blow to literally blow through attacks. It's not impossible to stop, however, as it does lose to grabs very cleanly. And if your opponent has the read that you're going to do it, they can counter you by doing their own Rev Blow. Just like a DI in Street Fighter 6, if you counter a Rev Blow with a Rev Blow, you see how you get this big stun animation. This gives you a huge combo opportunity. So Rev Blow is really strong, but you don't want to go too crazy with it because you can get punished pretty big. The other huge benefit we're going to talk about for SPG is that it gives you access to your level 3 supers. Supers is something we haven't talked about yet, but you have 3 different kinds. You have the level 1 that's done with the light punch input. These usually do decent damage and give you a hard knockdown. They're really good combo enders. You then have your level 2 that you do with one of the heavy buttons. These usually have like special properties like being lunging and anti-projectile or something like that on top of doing even better damage than a level 1. And then there's a level 3. In order to do this, you have to have 2 bars and you have to have your SPG active. And if you have all those requirements met, you can do your level 3 super. So between having access to a very powerful get off of me and a extremely powerful combo ender, you can easily see why it is a big decision on where to actually place your SPG. Obviously, it is a very important decision, and again, it's just another factor that layers into all the mind games of this game. So where you end up placing this on your health bar is going to depend entirely on your personal playstyle. Okay, so that does it for all of the mechanics I wanted to talk about. Let's very briefly just talk about some of the modes, because modes are also very important in a fighting game. When it comes to the offline modes, they have the basics. Arcade mode is pretty much what you'd expect. You know, go through some battles, see some cutscenes, good stuff like that. Practice mode, training mode is decent, definitely not the best. It'll get you by, but I feel like that's one of the weaker elements of the game. Not a lot of training mode options, but just the bare minimum. Mission mode, you can do, you know, combo trials, stuff like that. The tutorial is also pretty decent. It'll teach you the basics fairly well. Versus mode, you can do classic and special, where they have some special rules you can enforce. Episodes of Southtown is basically like the story mode. You get to pick a character and do different little scenarios. It's a nice little fun casual mode. Jukebox, this is a fun mode that lets you change what songs play on what stages. Side note, this game has some great stages and great stage themes, but you can customize them to your liking using the jukebox mode. Color editor, this is a big plus. I love this. This lets you literally edit the colors of your character however you want, you know, their hair, their accessories, their clothes. It's pretty in-depth and it has a lot of options. I wish more fighting games had this. And online, again, it's got pretty much everything you would want. Ranked, the ranks go up pretty high and the matches are pretty competitive. It's first to 2. Casual, if you want to do rematches and you don't want to worry about points. Room match, if you just want to open a room, play with your friends. And then of course there's a leaderboard, the replay channel, and the clone match actually lets you fight ghosts of people. And yes, this game is crossplay, and yes, it is rollback. I feel like the connection is good. It's definitely not the best, but it is really good. I'd say the only major problem with the online is that there is no, at the time of this recording, there is no Wi-Fi filter, so sometimes you don't really know what you're gonna get. But when you get a, like, you know, a 4 or 5 bar connection, generally it feels great. You don't feel any sort of lag unless, you know, some of those actual laggers do, you know, sneak through the gate sometimes. And briefly, to close things out, if you were curious, I feel like we should quickly just go over the roster if you're just curious about, you just have no idea who's in this game. Starting with the MC here, Rock. Rock is basically the main character of this game. He is your Shoto type character. He's basically like the Ryu of this game. Then of course there's the man who probably needs no introduction, Mr. Terry Bogard. He's in every game now. If you're playing a fighting game, he's probably there. I don't think I need to introduce Terry. Preacha, she is a very cool up close melee style character. She does have some decent neutral tools, but her main thing is getting in close. She deals out big damage and has like really long pressure sequences. If you're like a combo lover, she's definitely the character for you. Marco is neutral man. I kind of said that Rock was Ryu, but in reality, Marco is actually Ryu. Like, his whole thing is doing Hadokens to cover the neutral and then DPing you when you try to jump. That's like 90% of the character. He's pretty cool though, and he's all around really strong and just a solid pick. If you want to like control neutral and do some big damage and you get hits, you're looking at Marco. Jenny, she is basically your rushdown type character. She wants to get in close, and she has a lot of moves that let her do that. There's a lot of unique movement options as well, so she can be a pretty tricky character. She has kind of like a learning curve to her, but she's very fun, especially if you're the type of player that wants to get in and do some damage. Kevin is basically like a mid-range brawler. He's got big buttons. He's good against projectiles, and then when he gets in close, he really hurts. He's got a lot of really good moves for keeping up pressure, and again, if he gets his hands on you, he does huge damage. This dude is a brawler. Hokutomaru, he is kind of complicated. He's like a jack of all trades. He's got pretty decent zoning, really high mobility because he actually has a double jump. He has a double jump, a teleport, a really good fireball, and then good up close pressure. So he's basically like a sort of jack of all trades character. Like, if you want to rush down, you can. If you want to zone, you can. This kid is pretty darn strong. Billy Kane is one of the few zoning type characters. Think of him as sort of like the Dhalsim of this game. He doesn't have a projectile, but he just has really long reach with his staff. His whole thing is trying to keep you out. But even though he's good at keeping you away with, like, you know, huge buttons because of his staff, he is very good at laying on pressure too, because he can like pull you in and stuff like that. He's also the best character in the game at stopping jumps. So if you don't want people jumping on you, or you just don't want people coming near you at all, Billy Kane's your guy. Kim, this is another character who's just all about the rushdown. Similar to Preacha, like if your main thing is that you want to get in and you want to do like flashy stuff, this dude is probably the flashiest character in the game, which is why I feel like he's really, really popular. All of his moves are just really big and do like a million hits. He's like Mr. Combo Man. So if you want to do like a lot of rushdown and like you want to do like huge combos, you're looking at Kim. Ronaldo, this is this is the character that I main. This is Soccer Man, and he is Set Play Man. While I do think he is pretty hard to pick up, this is the character you want to play if you love set play. If you want to like mix people, you want to like get knockdowns and go for mix, this is the guy. Vox is another rushdown archetype. He doesn't have much in the way of like the mid-range or really from far away. He just really wants to be up close to you. He has a command grab, he has an anti-fireball, and he does have a pretty decent lariat. So he's another option if you like to rush down and you want to threaten with command grabs. Vox is your guy. Kine, he is pretty much the premier zoner, and if you watch any tournament play of this game, he's probably the most popular tournament character right now because he is the pure zoner. He is 100% keep away. He puts projectiles all over the screen. He puts projectiles on your wake up, and he's really, really good at cranking your heat gauge. So if you want to zone and keep people as far away from you as possible, Kine is the character for you. Tizak or Griffin Mask, depending on where you are in the world. I prefer Griffin myself, but he is the grappler of the game. He's 100% your Zangief archetype. He has a whole bunch of different command grabs, leaping command grabs, lunging command grabs, up close command grabs. He is the textbook grappler. Gato is an interesting one. He is one of the game's few stance characters. He is all about his stance pressure. From his stance, he has like a Rekka, a dive kick, a command grab. So he's another one where you want to get in close, but when you do, he has a lot of options to keep the opponent guessing. Hotaru, if you made it this far, you probably already know what she's about. She is pretty much a jack of all trades character. Fireball, DP, command grab. As of right now, I'm pretty sure everyone considers her to be the best character in the game just because she has every tool. I would also recommend her if you're picking up this game. I would say she's one of the best characters to pick up because she's so straightforward. But yeah, Hotaru, top tier jack of all trades. Mai, another character that probably doesn't need very much introduction. She still plays very similar to the way she always has, and basically the way she does in Street Fighter 6. While the fan is not as crazy as Street Fighter 6, it's still very strong in this game. It's a good zoning tool. The EX version is a hard knockdown, so if she ever hits you with EX fan, she gets pressure on you right away. She's got really good buttons, and just an all-around very solid character, whether you want to kind of keep them away or get up close and do some damage. And last but not least, the king of memes himself, Salvatore. How to describe Salvatore, I'm really not sure. I guess the best way I would say is that he is like the premier stance character of the game. He has a bunch of different wacky stances. He has a flight mode, and he's just like the, for lack of a better term, he's like the gimmick character. Like, he's just so crazy and weird that if the opponent doesn't know what's going on, you're just gonna get away with murder, because they're gonna be like, what in the world is this guy doing? And that's gonna bring us to the end of the video. Thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully by now you've seen enough to know whether or not Fatal Fury is for you. Again, if you're on the fence, I would highly recommend this game if you are just a fighting game fan. If you're a fighting game fan, there is just so much here to enjoy. Again, this game is so incredibly fun. It is simple but complex at the same time. I feel like it really has that perfect level of like complexity. It really feels like an old school fighting game, like brought into the new era in the right way. Like, none of the mechanics to me personally are like annoying. So whenever you get into a match, what's really important to me is that it feels like you're fighting the opponent and not like a cheap character or like a cheap mechanic. It's not like, oh, you know, I lost because of XYZ situation or XYZ character. It 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be, oh, I shouldn't have jumped, or oh, I shouldn't have hit a button right there. And that's usually what you should be saying in a fighting game. And I feel like that doesn't happen as much nowadays with modern fighters, but with this one, it definitely does for the most part. When you make a mistake, you're like, dang, I shouldn't have done that. And when you capitalize on a mistake, that feels good too. So again, I would highly recommend this game. If you have questions about like its longevity, I feel like this game is here to stay, because they already announced a $3 million tournament. So that means people are gonna be, you know, fiending for that money. People are gonna be playing this. So I don't think you have to worry about the game dying anytime soon, just due to how much money is on the table. And also with crossplay, it just shouldn't ever really be a problem of trying to find matches. An active tournament scene and crossplay, in my opinion, is all a game really needs to live, and this game's got both of those locked down. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. Also, a lot of really cool characters coming. There's a lot of cool characters coming in the past. Ken and Chun-Li, if you don't know from Street Fighter, are both going to guest star in this game. I'm really looking forward to that, as well as some returning KOF characters and stuff like that. And the devs have said that they plan to support this game for many, many years. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. I'm really enjoying it. Hopefully some of you guys will, you know, want to come pick up this game too, because it is a lot of fun. But again, I appreciate you guys listening. This is my first time doing one of these kind of videos, so I would appreciate some feedback. You guys let me know what you think. If you have more questions about the game, just leave them in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to answer them as soon as I can. Be sure to let me know what you guys think about all of this. I'd love to hear from you guys. Again, I appreciate you watching. You guys have a good one. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.